So outer space, y'all. I would say you should go there, but you're already there.
But
that's my point.
Mic drop.
That's what I love about that shit.
Right.
We are in outer space right now. Like.
This is Other Maria, the podcast of our real-life conversations about personal evolution, society, relationships, spirituality, and everything else. We're getting vulnerable in these good faith talks and sometimes respectfully disagreeing about which of us is wrong. Just kidding, there's no right and wrong. We're just two friends sitting around talking shit. Wait, talking about deep shit, right? That's what we're doing? Yeah, enjoy.
What's up, y'all?
Hi, guys. Welcome in.
Welcome. It is mid-July. June. Where the fuck am I?
Not in a normal reality. No, I'm just
Not in a linear timeline.
Not in a linear
anymore.
That's what it is. There we go.
I have departed the old paradigm.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, off the cuff.
Please.
So this will be episode 3. And it's just been so fucking cool. It's out in the world.
I know. It's very surreal.
Yeah. We've worked on it for so long.
I know.
And I don't know, I'm already feeling like momentum, like the energy of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of it, and
yeah,
out in the world, and I'm excited. And we're still like living our lives and
totally.
just...
Yeah, we didn't die. No, I'm just kidding.
I just sort of meant like
our life didn't end when
like
we released it.
This didn't become our only thing.
That's
or
true.
anything.
Oh, absolutely not. That brings me to this. I want to ask you. We've gotten feedback from one person, but another person mentioned something sort of similar, but I don't remember what they said. But just that we talked about the podcast itself so much on the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're doing it again, and I kind of wanted to talk about that.
Talk about how we talk about the podcast?
Correct. Let's get really meta.
We're like 3 levels deep.
3 levels deep.
Yeah, I love that. You shared that feedback with me, and I thought it was so valuable. And we're not going to do it again. We'll make this quick, guys. But yeah, the podcast existed for us for so long, like a full year before we released the first episode. So the way that we talked about it maybe wasn't quite as accessible to other people in their first meeting with it, I guess.
I don't think we were as clear about why we were talking about the podcast that way. Mm-hmm. We mentioned it vaguely, but I think for us it was like the creation of the podcast has so much to do with what we want to talk about.
Exactly. Just
so you all know, we said we'll try to keep this brief, but like this isn't going to just be every episode this meta conversation about how we made a podcast.
Totally. No, it was like this happens to be our creation that didn't exist and now exists, that we stuck with and put out into the world and have treated with a lot of patience and grace, and like had to weave ourselves into it and weave our friendship into it. And I mean, that can apply for anyone to anything.
Right.
You know, like whatever you want to create.
Right.
And it becoming a real thing, and that being a really big deal no matter what it is.
Right.
Out in the world.
Yeah. And like the fact that our conversations center around like self-growth and self-discovery and dealing with our negative voices and stuff, that was all part of the process of even releasing the podcast. So like that's where you and I were coming from while talking about it.
Correct.
We're going to be speaking about the fact that like, how do you feel in this moment? What's going on this week? Where's your anxiety lying? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of it was getting the podcast out. That was part of the process. So anyway, I just thought that would be a nice thing to touch upon quickly before moving on. Also, we forgot to put a little disclaimer or whatever the right word is for that last week, saying that last week was an episode that we had recorded a long time ago.
It's in the show notes.
It's in the show notes, correct. That's right. So we did put a little thing, but we didn't say anything in the podcast about it. And like this week, it'll probably be this episode and it's new, but then like there are going to be other episodes that are the older ones until we're caught up and just like recording fresh every week. So there's also that, where it's like those old ones, certainly we never mentioned the podcast. I mean, a little bit, but not the way that was that first episode.
Right. Right. I think in the future we could stick a little tag on there after the intro that's like, enjoy this older episode.
Right.
Because I know one thing that when we were talking about what episode to release, we both noted that we feel really differently
Yes.
about certain things or
Yeah.
have grown a ton. And I will just make note of one of them, which is like the concept of rest that I talked about having just discovered in last week's episode. I am fucking gangster at that now.
Right.
I
right.
am so
proud of you.
so good at rest and receive and sit the fuck down and watch some Netflix, read a book, sit in the sun.
Totally.
No guilt.
Yeah.
I do it all the time and it's charming.
Yeah. And I think like I've noticed that I feel really vulnerable putting out the old ones. Because I'm like, that's not how I feel now or whatever. Like that comes up too. So I'm also probably leaning into a lot, like overly leaning in a little bit of to like, let people know it's old, you know?
Sure.
Because I'm just like, that's like a year ago or whatever. But who cares? We're going to talk about what we talk about. So
yeah, be here
get
for
over it.
it.
I'm just kidding. You're going to be here for it. No, I would love it for you to be here for it. So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that. But so I will ask you a topic and you will choose it. Ready?
Go.
Past, random.
Past.
Oh,
Yep.
that was so quick. All right, with the quickness. Oh, this is a good one for you.
Let's hear it.
I guess I'll have to try to participate. What book has had the greatest impact on your life?
Oh shit, son.
I know. Oh my gosh, Maria has so many books that have had an impact on her life.
God.
Maria's a really big reader. I am not. Wow.
Yeah, man, that's hard. Okay. So I will just say that I am a voracious reader of the ADHD variety. And I used to think that it was somehow problematic. I love the way I do it. And so if you can relate to this, then like, what's up? I see you. I read 5 or 6 books at the same time at different speeds in different formats.
Okay.
So
yes.
I have a stack of like maybe 4 books right next to my bed. There's like probably 3 I'm listening to on Audible. And I mean, that's what I'm doing right now.
Maria's got 10 books at all times.
Yeah. But I think it's really cool because it always happens that wherever I pick up whatever book I feel like in the moment, I get something great out of it. I will also say that I am not huge on fiction. That said, first book that really came to mind.
I know what you're going to say. I just thought of it.
99% of the books that I read are either psychology or personal growth or spirituality or some combination of all of that, or scientific. Right now I'm reading The Divine Matrix, which is just putting me on another level. And I don't mean to sound pretentious. It's just what the fucking book is about. It's about the intersection of human emotion and quantum theory. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And it's up there. It's up there with like easily top 10 books I've ever read. But short answer, too late, to your short question, The Alchemist.
Mm-hmm. Which I still have not read.
Yeah, and I will just recommend it to everyone because it's a pretty quick read. Like it's a short story. It is fiction. I think it's really relatable and it's beautiful, and it's just about this boy and his adventure.
I need to read it. Yeah, I do.
And give yourself 10 points if you can tell me his name.
The writer's name?
No, the boy.
Oh, crap. Okay. I was like, I think I know. I do know the writer's name. I'd have to think about it for a second. But, I know. Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
Yeah, that's mine. So I guess top 2 for today are The Alchemist and The Divine Matrix. But also, You Are the Placebo.
Yes.
Joe Dispenza.
Yep.
That was a life-changing book, actually.
I have it, and I still haven't read it. I read the beginning. But...
I first read that one, like, more than 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a long ass time
Yeah.
ago. And I feel like it hit me right at a time, too, that I had just... It was like within a year or two of having been in treatment for my eating disorder. And I feel like I'm in really solid recovery now and have been since then. But it was like I came out of treatment and I started to live a quote unquote like normal life. And I got a job and I did this and I did that. And I kind of was just like, what's next though? Like I've healed this huge wound.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And that book was so encouraging, You Are the Placebo, because it's sort of about, I mean, it talks a ton about meditation and the science behind meditation, but it also was very introductory for me into the realm of you dream as big as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and way more than you know is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply a matter of your beliefs.
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
it started that. It was like
Right.
an approachable way, and like there's so many different
Things,
avenues
yeah.
into that type of theory or belief system,
Right.
or whatever you want to call it.
Universal truth. No.
But yeah, girl.
Yeah.
That's it. I just like pointed at her, almost poked her in the eye. Yes. Universal truth. But that was what was accessible for me at the time. And I just remember being like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to be okay. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
So, that one too. All those books, guys, go read them.
What a voice. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. But you've read books.
I have. I have read books. I'm going to say Ender's Game.
Why did I feel like you were going to say that? Like I could envision the cover of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not that the book's content changed my life or something, like taught me some crazy lesson, but I'm not a big reader, and our other very good friend Emma is a huge reader, and she and I became close senior year of high school, so I was already 17 and wasn't reading.
She was illiterate.
I was illiterate at 17. No,
you've grown a lot.
I've really grown a lot. Like,
yeah, you can even spell sometimes.
But since I was young, so in like 8th grade, okay, a story no one needs, but just to know some about me, like I love space, as you know.
Oh my God, yes.
I love space a lot.
And I love that about you.
Yeah. I've kind of fallen off the space tip lately, but I gotta get back on. I mean, I'm never away from it much, but like, yeah.
But like your home is largely decorated by space-like things.
Yeah, that is
you
deeply
know
true.
so much about the planets in our solar system and the universe.
That is true. And not with astrology. I've come into that more recently, but this is like astronomy.
Astronomy.
Yeah.
No, yes. Yeah, you know like all of Jupiter's moons and
I do.
what we've sent into space and
well, a good amount. If
you guys want us to talk about that, Maria knows so much. It's
I guess
really
I
cool.
do. I know a lot of the basics that people, if you don't know anything, I look like I know a lot. I do know a lot. No, I do know a lot. I just kind of like stagnated and haven't gone past it. Sometimes like if I hung out with like a space nerd, I'd be like, oh shit, you know, like, and I'm like, I gotta.
Yeah. You need a refresher.
No, I need a refresher and I need to like level up on it. I'm like, okay. So what? I know the moons. What about the comets? Or like, I don't, whatever. Anyway.
Which you also know a ton about.
Okay, no, I don't. That's not true. I don't. And so it's like, but I know a lot. Let us move on. I know a lot about space. And so when I was a kid, my sister had a boyfriend who bought me my first Hubble Space Telescope book. I was probably like 10 or 11. And oh man, and back then the telescope was so bomb because it was pretty new. And like that was the first time we'd sent a telescope outside of Earth so that there was no atmosphere blocking our view. So that was why that telescope was such a big deal. Because if you think about it, all the telescopes we were looking at till then were on Earth. So no matter how clear the sky.
Right, and so like what year was that approximately?
I don't know when the telescope was actually launched. Let's look it up right now. I want to say late 90s.
Okay, but like clearly in our lifetime.
Oh, in the 90s.
In the 90s. Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to get
Yeah.
at because I don't think I even knew that.
Yes. So Hubble Space Telescope, 1990.
Dang. Okay.
So, exactly. That makes much sense because I was born in 86. So, somewhere between the ages of like between 8 and 10 or something like that. So, it had been around for like 6 years. Okay, don't quote me on this. I think probably in the beginning, there weren't as many books of the pictures. It was the science-y part. So, like, the scientists had the access to the pictures and stuff.
Totally.
But I know the book I got was, like, new. It's so fun because there's now Kepler as well, which is a really big space telescope that's, like, more high-tech than Hubble. And that was launched in the last 10 years. But back then, I just remember, like, you look at the pictures now, and they seem, like, old. It's so fun. Like,
which is why I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I look at those pictures and I'm like, that's from the 70s.
Correct.
You know?
They look, because they're just, like, not as great pixelation and stuff like that. But back then, it was like, holy shit. Okay, all right, let's do it really quickly. Nerd on this for a minute. It was so cool because, like, before the Hubble Space Telescope.
Also, right quick, I wish y'all could have seen her face when she decided she was going to nerd out for a second. Such joy.
I just haven't talked about this stuff in a really long time now that
No, I appreciate this.
mentioned
Please continue.
So, like, again, do not quote me, but I am fairly certain we did not know until Hubble that there were, like, infinite galaxies, not just stars. Or like so many stars or whatever. So let's do a quick lesson.
Fucking love
Let's
this.
just start from here really quickly. Solar system is going to be a star and the planets around it. So the sun is our solar system's star. So it's the system around the sun, right? So the planets, our 9 planets, or 8 if you don't want to count Pluto, whatever, are in our solar system. Mm-hmm.
Does Earth count because it's flat though?
Earth is the only flat planet. The other ones are round. I could be wrong. Let's check that. No, okay, I'm just kidding. Love you, flat earthers. We're here for you.
You're allowed to be a flat earther and still listen to our podcast.
Yes, that's right. So that's a solar system. So then all stars gather around each other, we'll just say, into galaxies. And that's a galaxy. So
like a family.
Like a family. It is. It's a family
Star
system.
family. That's
Star
so
family.
Cute.
That's one of my tarot cards. Star family.
That just sounds adorable.
Yeah. So our galaxy is the Milky Way. And we knew of like nearing galaxies. Like Andromeda is our closest galaxy. Or galaxy neighbor. And we're actually like merging with it right now. Over like billions of years. So we knew there were other galaxies. That was a huge thing, right? Like a huge discovery. Oh my gosh, we're not the only it's humans. We're like, we're not the only planet. Wait, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth? Like, we're so, like, egocentric here. So one of them was finding out there were other galaxies. And I was like, holy shit, because, okay, I'm pretty sure this number's right. Again, don't quote me. Milky Way, I think, has 100. I think we have 100 million stars in our galaxy.
Which is just impossible.
So 100 million suns, right? And then everybody's like, is there other life? Are there other planets? Like, okay. No, just us.
Just us.
Got real lucky. But, so there's all these other galaxies. But Hubble, why it was so cool, when we figured out how many more galaxies was, every other telescope till Hubble was on Earth. So even on the darkest night, in the darkest places on Earth, where you go to a dark sky, I'm pretty sure there's a dark sky scale, so that you can find like the clearest parts of the skies. But even that, telescope's still looking through like water particles.
Right.
That like you and I aren't going to see.
Atmosphere, yeah.
But through our whole atmosphere. So it's fucking amazing when you can get a telescope outside of our atmosphere, because now there's no blocking of any particles. Okay, there's also a great story. Oh God, oh my God. Okay, you got me started. What's also really fun is when Hubble first went up, it obviously was flown up there, but then obviously there was also going to have to be technicians to work on it. So those are really cool things to look into too. All these astronauts that were going on these spacewalks to like service it. And so when it first arrived up into space, they like turned it on or whatever, and all of the pictures were fuzzy. And imagine it's like a millions to maybe billions of dollars thing that they've done. It's this huge piece of equipment. They got it up into space and all the pictures are fuzzy. And so they were like, holy fuck, is it just like a failure? Mm-hmm. And then they ended up finding out, all the smart scientists figured out that like one of the like, I don't remember. This part I don't know, but it was like one of the lenses was fucked up or whatever.
I was going to say, did they leave the sticky film on the lens when they purchased it?
They purchased it. So somebody went on a spacewalk and peeled off the sticky layer of film.
Yes.
And then so then they had to have like a spacewalk, a mechanic spacewalk, to go fix it up in outer space, and they did. And then so it was like a really fun, great reveal, because at first it was like, this thing's broken, and the whole thing's a failure. But it was like, no, we can go service it, and all of a sudden they were getting all these images, and it was like really exciting. So also about the galaxies, why we were able to then see all these like billions of galaxies was they just did an open exposure. So they pointed it into a dark part of the sky, and they left the exposure open for 24 hours or whatever amount of time.
Oh my God.
And when it came back, a picture, just the entire frame full of galaxies.
Whoa. So I didn't know that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so we were like, holy shit, and it was one like needle pin point in the sky.
And so this was like...
It's called the deep space field, I think. So then Kepler's gone up and has magnification. I think that's what it is. There's like better magnification. So they did the deep field it's called the deep field something. And then they have like the ultra deep field, because they got like, its technology has gotten better.
Right.
And I think when they did it with Kepler, they picked up like twice as many in one needle point, because there's just like infinite galaxies. Yeah.
Which, I'm not going to apologize for doing this, brings me back to the Divine Matrix right quick, and then we'll go back to the space
Absolutely.
talk. Which brings into question the whole, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Sure.
And sort of the point that the book is making, because they're talking about human consciousness and quantum theory, and if our consciousness brings, and this might be too far for some people, but it's like, if our consciousness brings something into existence, then the deeper we look, we're always going to keep finding stuff. With the technology that we have right now, we are assuming that the universe, the galaxies, is this big or this saturated.
Right.
It's because we keep looking.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we keep looking, we're just going to find more, because our consciousness is directed there.
Right.
And there's literally no end to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I love it. Yeah.
Proceed.
Yeah, totally. And that's right. And I mean, that's what's so great about the space travel stuff is so interesting, because people have such different feelings about it, about like, are we wasting our money if we try to do that? And then there's obviously the opposite, where it's just like, we've got like Elon Musk being like, I'm going to monopolize the whole thing and like get up there. Or that's just one way to look at it. People like really get down on Elon Musk. I don't know much about him and I don't care. But like, no matter who it is or how it happens, humans cannot help but want to discover more.
Yeah.
Like it is hardwired into us to be explorers.
Right.
And
I think the argument that I hear often, and I'm with you on that, like
yeah.
I don't know much about anyone that's investing their own personal wealth into going into space, and I don't really care. However, if I had that resource, I might do the same.
100%.
And many people are saying, why not use that resource to solve the problems here on Earth? But it's like, the spirit of exploration and creativity are so intrinsic to the human experience that if we cut that off and we fix all the problems here on Earth, which like I don't even think that's a thing, but why fix it all if there's not something beyond, if there's not a next level, if there's not more to experience or create.
Right.
That already exists, that we're going to discover, that we're going to create,
Mm-hmm. And that also makes me think about like the lack mentality and abundance that you and I talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, there isn't enough, so we therefore need to like cut off space exploration in order to take care of things that are quote unquote more important.
Right.
When for me, I feel like there's actually enough for all of it, but we're not. I think we're tapping into that now, but you can't even tap into all that is available if you don't think it's available. That's the belief system thing of like, if you believe that there isn't enough to go around on the planet, then there won't be, because you won't be open to that possibility. and look for those solutions.
Absolutely.
And obviously we're getting deep. I mean, it's overwhelming that all the stuff that's going on Earth that's not comfortable and that feels really bad. But I think that there's enough to go around for exploration and to feed everybody that's hungry. We're not doing it, but I don't think that means there's not enough.
Absolutely.
You know, definitely us not doing it doesn't mean it's not available. And I think it is available. So I'm all about space exploration. And I get that, you know, the privatization of it is just a problem we have on Earth in general. So of course there's going to be privatized space travel that feels wrong to some.
Sure.
Because it should be available to all. And I agree with that. But everything should be available to all. And we're coming out of this privatization epoch.
Yes.
So anyway, Ender's Game? No, I don't know.
No, wait, let's come back to that because I am...
Well, so that book, the only reason I bring it up, it was the first book I read that I loved and was like, oh my God, this is why people like reading. That's what that book did for me. And it's a sci-fi book. Yeah, it's a sci-fi book. And it's not, again, like, and I haven't even read it in many years now. And I just got someone close to me to read it, and like they like it, and I was like, yes, Ender's Game, spread it across the world. No, whatever. I haven't even read it in a while, but it just has always stuck with me as like my favorite book. And I'm sure it's hard for me sometimes to say like that's my favorite book because I don't read books. So I'm like, is that fair? There's so many books I haven't read, you know? But it was just a really interesting science fiction book about some future timeline that we're on where children are being militarized and like from a very young age, and they're being born with like a genetic upgrade of some sort that they're like very smart. It's not even smart, but it's like they're like an adult brain by like age 4. So like by age like 5 or 6, they're getting sent to the military because there's this huge conflict with the only other sentient beings that we have now discovered. And we think that they're out to annihilate us. And we're not communicating with each other properly.
Of course.
Right. And so children are getting recruited to like fight this enemy of this other sentient race. And Ender is being put through a lot of like militarizing him. It's just the journey of Ender going through as a child, but also like a brilliant like child who can like literally function like an adult, being weaponized is what the word I was looking for. He's being weaponized for military purposes, but has compassion and love in his heart and isn't able to...
Just thought of another book.
Oh, okay. The gasp of the century. No. So yeah, so it's just that story and his story of like coming through and weaponized and stuff versus like any internal struggle he's having and not really being allowed to have it because he's in this military bubble, but like he's having this experience and there's this other sentient being involved or race involved. So and it's like a whole series of books, and it's fascinating because the writer is Mormon. I haven't ever done a deep dive on him, but I just know the rumors around him just like being like hyper Mormon and having very rigid beliefs in certain things. So it's really interesting that like he wrote this book. So for people who have trouble holding two things, they're like, oh, that Mormon, I don't want to read his book. And it's like so fascinating because it's like, no, it's a great book and it's got really interesting themes and things to think about.
Dude, there are so many examples of incredible works of creation that have come from people that are part of like the Mormon faith.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And then come out with this just like bonkers, amazing creative work.
Yeah.
There's Mormon.
Who is Mormon? The Instagram person was Mormon?
I think he was Mormon, yeah.
Oh, with the goofy account?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know
That's
that.
what we talk about on the episode.
I didn't realize he was Mormon. I didn't remember you bringing that up. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Shout out to the Mormons.
Yeah. Or anyone else, because like, just quick on that, it's like that's a facet of a person. That doesn't mean that's like the only thing that they are.
No,
their only
not even
identity.
close. Not even close, yeah.
So, wherever you're coming from, it's great.
But yeah.
Also, as you were talking,
Yes.
I remembered
Oh, yeah, what book?
one of my other favorite books.
Yes.
And again, I feel the need to like rank it maybe top 3. The only other probably work of fiction, The Giver.
Oh, we read that in grade school, and I remember it hitting, but I just didn't. I've not read it since.
It hit
that
me
was
so
That's
hard.
a good one too because I really liked it, and I didn't read back then either. And any reading assignment I was given, I never did it. Like I fudged it somehow. I found Cliff's Notes, Gen Zers. You don't know what that is. You know,
It was before the Google.
It was before the Google. And yeah, but I remember being like, oh, I really, really like this book.
10 points again if you can tell me his name. Not the author, the boy. But yeah, that book. It was one of the first on my radar. And again, we probably read it when we were, 10, 11, something like that? But like this dystopian world where humans have been altered in a way such that people don't, I think it was like, and I've read it much more recently, but maybe not in the last like 5 years or so. But basically they've taken negative experiences or memories out of the human experience, but there's got to be a vent.
Yeah.
And the vent is the giver. That role in society of the giver.
Right.
And that's
Was that the book too, though, where like they had their jobs chosen for them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like, and there's also like a, I think, Hunger Games vibe to it.
I was going to bring up, I thought of that.
Yeah. Which also.
Have you read Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's actually one that I read too, which, look at me go. I've read books.
Yeah. Full of shit.
I know. I haven't read in a very long time, so that's why I feel right now like the non-reader, but like, whatever. Yeah. Look at us talk about books and space.
Oh my God, how am I going to swing this?
Man, I'm going to...
in the show notes to make people watch it.
Well, and also now that we've talked about it, I'm like, can we do an episode on the Voyager mission? No, I just like want to nerd out about space.
No, for real. You guys want to hear about it? Maria will talk about it.
I will absolutely talk about it.
She knows all her shit.
Yeah. I really do want to talk to people about space so much more because it's like, I think that Hubble Space Telescope book is sort of like something I'm grasping at of like trying to figure out where my intrigue came from, because it didn't come from my family. Like,
no, it just fucking called to you.
I know. No one like told me about it or talked to me about it.
And I'll be honest, like, as much as I love that you talk about it and it's fascinating to me and I literally always learn something new, I don't necessarily retain it. So maybe it's just the same thing over and over.
It's hard to retain.
No, but as much as it fascinates me, I don't seek it out or get lit up the way that you do.
Right.
Like, it's just a fucking calling that is part of you. I feel like it didn't come from anywhere except you.
Right.
Like, it just called to you.
Well, it's funny because, too, for a while, so in college, I watched a lot of shows about it. There were 2 shows on, like, Nat Geo, something like that. There was one called The Universe, and there was another one, I think, called How the Universe Works. And they were 2 episodic shows. Because I remember watching them kind of pre-Netflix, and then Netflix was happening and they were on Netflix and I would like rewatch them, but I now could like binge them because I think I was like finding them on TV or something weird.
Yeah.
That's why I mean that I feel like I stagnated on my knowledge around it, because a lot of it comes from that, and we've like grown exponentially in the last 15 years since I watched it, so we know so much more, but B, it was very finite, the information I learned, because it was all just trying to be basics. When I started getting excited again about it a few years ago, was wanting to like teach about it or have something, maybe podcast about it, just talk to people about it, was telling my friends things that felt, and not in like some condescending way, I don't give a fuck, but like I forget what like a nerd I am about it and what a calling I have to it. Because there have been friends I've literally told like the sun is a star and they're like, wait, what?
Right. No, I remember that came
up. Just the sun is a star. They're like, excuse me, pause.
Oh, I remember that came up maybe as recently as like sometime during the pandemic when you were like, can you believe I told this friend, and not in a condescending way at all, to hammer that point home, but you were just like, it was so cool to like tell this person,
so fun,
I don't even remember who it was, not important, that the sun is a star, and they were like, whoa,
just that. And I was like, wait, and that was when I was the first time I was like, holy shit, people don't know this stuff,
right? And
for me, it's like
water is wet.
No, okay. No. That's all I was going to say. No, for me, it was like everyone should know water is wet. This is something that I wish everyone knew. And not because I want them to like care about it like I do. It's more like to just have that information of like where you live and who you are, and to like understand how special you are. For me, it always made me feel really special to know this stuff.
Say more about that.
Okay, well, my mom is really funny. She loves it. She thinks it's really interesting and cool, but she's always been like, oh my, okay, wait. To give everybody a backstory on my dear sweet mother, she and I are very different.
Hi,
and
Mary.
Hi, Mary. No, hi, Mom. Hi,
Maria.
Now Maria. Yeah.
There's a
her
third
name is Maria.
Maria.
There's a third Maria.
Yo.
Hey. And the other Maria.
Right.
Okay, not to talk about her too much, but we're very different, and she just has a different approach to life and is much more like shy. She's very shy. But she was like, she'll just always be like, oh my goodness, like just the sheer magnitude of space terrifies me. Like she gets really scared by it. Like she's always like, it's so, and in a good sweet way, she'll say it's so awesome, but she means awesome in that like original meaning of the word, full of awe.
Yeah.
She's like, it's so awesome. Like, and I just, oh my God, like I get shivers when I think about how like the infinite universe, like, oh my gosh, it like freaks me out.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was so interesting and adorable and cool and different, because that's like not what the vibe I get. I'm like, holy fuck, that makes me feel so like open and vibrant and excited and big and like, holy shit, like just like so much wonder. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so it's like an expansive
yes.
experience for you,
Right.
whereas with her, it's almost intimidating.
Intimidating, for sure intimidating. It's like the vibe that I get.
Yeah.
While also being super interested in it and whatever. But I felt like growing up with all the like religion around me, especially in the 90s, early 2000s, we're still going through it a lot, for sure. But there was a lot more of the like atheists coming up. You know, like there was a lot of like atheism conversation. Mm-hmm. I remember that was along with my journey of like figuring out my own relationship to Catholicism. We also didn't mention this in the first episode. First episode, we mentioned that Maria and I went to grade school together, we went to high school together. We also went to church together.
Sure did.
Sure did. So we went to the same church. We had our first communion together, and we had our confirmation together.
And we talk a lot about that in another episode that
yep.
I'm really excited to release.
Yes.
From like a year ago, so we're in a totally different place, but it's still great content.
Totally. So like I remember grappling with like my belief in God. And so then once that got on my own radar, and then trying to figure out like, am I an atheist? When I was growing up, felt like either or.
Yeah.
So it was now you believe in God or you are an atheist, which means you do not believe in God. And then there was this like random agnostic, which meant you just didn't know. You didn't know if there was a God or not. And that was like the three categories. And so for a long time, yeah, I think I did relate, or I related more to atheist. So I think there was a time in my life that I kind of used that phrase. I dropped it a long time ago, but like, so there was that. So then coming into the atheist realm, you come into, back then especially, the science realm. Because the way that we grew up, it was always that science and spirituality must be at odds.
And that's what I was going to say, too. Mm-hmm. It was very black and white.
Super black and white.
Which makes sense that you had to, like, contend with that and try to parse it out, because it was like, either you are this Catholic faith that you were raised with, or if you're exploring the science thing, you no longer get to be part of this Catholic faith.
Correct.
Which, like, we were going to contend with that anyway in our own ways, in our own timeline. But at that juncture, it makes sense that came up as like, not like a conflict, but like, what do I do with this? Because the space shit really talks to me.
Yeah, right. But it was also like good, like the timing made sense too, because I hadn't really resonated with Catholicism most of my life. And I stopped going to church after 8th grade, but like, especially those later years up to confirmation was like, I'm just doing this because my parents make me do it. Mm-hmm. Totally. So, of course, I was then, like, naturally shoved into believing I'm an atheist, which, you know, whatever that means, we can get there a different time. But, like, then I'm like, no, I don't believe in God. Like, I don't believe in this thing, so I'm an atheist. And, I do resonate with science, so that must mean I'm the science-minded.
So I'm a Scientologist.
So I'm a Don't you ever call me a fucking Scientologist. Just kidding. Side note, I'm really down the Scientology rabbit hole, and I hate that shit, and I think it's a cult and abusive, and...
Hi, Tom Cruise.
Hi, Tom Cruise. No, I'm just kidding. But no, so exactly. So it was just like, it like felt at the time as I was like growing up between like through high school, through college, was a lot of like figuring out the atheism thing with the science thing and being like, well, I love science and I don't believe in these religions per se, so I must be an atheist. But like that doesn't resonate anymore either, because I'm like super spiritual now, but I'm just not in any organized religion, and I don't think there's like one God or whatever. But with the atheist thing, how I feel about it now is absolutely not in a blanket statement way. Many people who identify as an atheist, I see a lot of those people struggle with their like happiness. Like that's not the right term, but like they struggle with very like existential stuff of like, what is my purpose? Like, what is the point, right? Like, what happens after death? You're dead and gone. And like, I don't mind whatever your belief is if it's like working towards joy. That's all I really care about. Like, if it's, like, helping you feel more joyful, great. But I'll see a lot of, like, depression around that concept.
Absolutely.
And, again, these are just kind of, like, societal voices. So let's just, like, generalize it. I'm not talking about, like, one specific person. I'm not saying every atheist feels this way. Not at all. But just there was a generalized, quote-unquote, atheist voice when I was in the early 2000s, when I was in my 20s, early 20s. Of like, humans aren't even special. We all think we're so special. We're not even special. Like, we're so like, you know, egocentric and full of ourselves in like this really negative way of like, versus those like old hundreds of years ago when we were like, everything revolves around us and, you know, we are the most special and we're God's chosen and we're the only ones and like all this stuff. And so like just there was like this imbalance. And so for me, like with the space stuff, I'm always just like, the more I understand about space, the more I'm just like, what the fuck? How cool is it that I'm here? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm just like on this floating rock. Like, and I don't mean it in like the random, I'm just a random floating rock and like whatever, nothing matters. I'm like, no, like how fucking cool that like we have been able to like exit our planet and take pictures of it and brought it back to the Earth and showed it to each other. And we were like, what the fuck?
So don't come for the two of us for being meta, because NASA started it.
Yeah. Hashtag NASA started it. And side note, to teach everybody a phrase, the overview effect. It's this phrase that was coined about what astronauts experience when they go into outer space and see the Earth for the first time. They see the overview of the Earth and just have a profound experience, obviously.
It's like ayahuasca from space.
Absolutely. It's drugless ayahuasca is going into outer space and looking back at the planet, and that's the overview effect. Yeah, and like I think that I do a good job of like, I feel like I'm really good at having experiences through other people's experiences. And I don't know if I'm like saying that well, but like just having the astronauts go and the deep dive I've done on that, there was a really great show that was short-lived and like everyone is mad at Will Smith now, I get it, but there was this show called One Strange Rock, and it was on Netflix during the pandemic, and it wasn't on Netflix for very long, but it's 8 episodes, and every episode is an astronaut that has gone to outer space talking like directly to the camera.
God damn it, you told me to watch this. I never did.
Mm-hmm. And Will Smith is the narrator, but he's also, it's this format where it's just one person speaking at a time, and Will Smith, as he narrates, just looks straight out into the camera and just tells you stuff about the astronauts in space, and then it's one astronaut per episode talking about their experience, and then all the pictures that all these astronauts have taken from the ISS, which is the International Space Station. And some of them live up there for like months, to like the woman that was on that had been the longest has done like over 2.5 years up there. Maybe not straight, but over 6 months at a time. And like, I'm just, oh my God, like what a cool experience. And it's so hard to do. It's so challenging. It's super nerdy. They're up there doing science projects. Like they're not eating good food. They're losing muscle mass. Like it's not glamorous actually at all.
Sure.
But it's like so cool. They're just like looking at Earth, you know? And so I feel like through them, I've always just been like, even if I go up there, like of course I would love to go up into space if I had the chance.
Hashtag send Maria to space.
Hashtag send me to space. Me, Maria, not you, Maria. No, I'm just kidding.
You can all go, but I want you to go first.
Okay, great. But even if I don't go, ever.
Right.
I feel like that's where I go internally.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, that's it. Yeah.
Because we're all connected.
She said because we're all connected. I feel like no one's going to hear that on the recording.
They heard me because we're connected.
Sorry. Fair. fair. And so it's like, I just feel like I went up into space when they went up into space. That's how I've always felt. Because I've always felt that connected to humanity.
I mean this so sincerely. You were born so evolved.
Okay.
No, I mean, no, there's just like these, like, you've had the same human experience that we've all had in the culture that we've grown up in. But there are just like these little pockets inside of you that you've had since childhood or were aware of, or you describe these things and I'm just like, fuck, I just figured that out last year and you've always had that and I know you've always had that and it's just so cool.
Thanks, girl.
You've just got like this inherent, I don't know, God loves you.
Okay.
Not any more than anyone else, but like, it's just so cool. Like,
Thank you.
You've just always been connected to it.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to say one more thing, which now I feel very self-conscious that you're complimenting me, but I did want to say one more thing that does feel tied up to it. With the atheism thing and the religion thing and God and faith was always a big word when we were growing up in the church and learning about what is faith and what does our faith mean. And I remember when
Allegiance to Jesus.
What?
Allegiance
to Jesus. Oh, I feel like that should be...
Hashtag allegiance to Jesus.
I feel like that should be a bumper sticker. But I remember when I was at the stage when I was watching all those universe documentary shows, and actually I think a bit before that, maybe high school too, I remember this thing I would say, and I know I've said to multiple people. I don't know who I said it to. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but I know I've said it, and I've thought about it now, and I am sometimes like, damn, that is so evolved. Like, what? Where was that coming from? I remember trying to figure out what faith meant to me. And faith always was tied up in faith in God. And if I'm now playing around with this idea of there, quote unquote, isn't a God, or like I don't resonate with the God of the Catholic Church, then what does that mean about my faith? And what do I have faith in? And I remembered so quickly and easily with a smile on my face just being like, I have faith in humanity.
Yep. Yep.
Giant eye roll.
No, I did not roll my eyes.
No, I know, but like, you know.
No, it's just like so you.
Yes, I was just like, I have faith in humanity. And I do. And I know most of us don't. But I'm just always like, that's funny. Because I do. That's fine. Like, I'll have it for us. That's okay. But I'm always like, you know, we're always just like, we're trash humans and we're all going to destroy the planet. We're destroying the planet. We're going to be the reason that that the planet dies. We have nothing but a terrible future ahead of us. You know, we're monsters. We don't care. And it's just like anybody who's saying that, this is what I'd always said to you. I feel like if you're talking shit about humans, you're talking shit about yourself.
Right.
That is just like absolutely something you cannot unconvince me of.
Right. Which also reminds me, I don't know, I guess people have different feelings about the concept of unconditional love, but I know that there's also just like a lot of people that are striving for unconditional love. And I remember it didn't impact me the same way because I think I already knew it, but at some point someone said unconditional love means you also have to apply that to yourself.
Right.
And just like almost hearing a bunch of heads exploding in whatever room I was in, because suddenly it was like, oh fuck, that means I have to love myself that same way too.
100%.
You know, it was like within a community that was, you know, attempting to be of service or whatever it is and share love with everyone else, but it was just like, well, hold on a minute, you have to love yourself too.
Right.
Which, you know, easier said than done.
Fair.
Oh,
100%.
We'll get into that on another episode.
Totally. Like 1,000%. And I have so much compassion for it and I get it. And I know the pandemic was really helpful for me in that way, in that I went into really negative headspaces during the pandemic.
Right.
For different reasons than most of the zeitgeist. And I was getting really upset by the way people were acting and treating one another and treating me. And like, that got my ego going. And then I was really mad, you know, like at how people were acting. But, you know, that's okay because that's understandable. Everybody was in so much pain and was so scared. I was the same. So I get it. I fully get it. But it is definitely something about like my biggest trigger is people not being nice to one another. Sure. And just people being so mean. We're all just very mean to each other. And not actually all the time. In fact, people are really nice to each other. and we talk trash about each other all about humanity. This other thing, like it's another thing. Mm-hmm. Humans suck. But like I go out and every single day I have really nice interactions with people. Every single day. Do I have shitty interactions with people every day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people are shitty. People act shitty, and I get it. People act shitty. But I think all of us, like we all do with everything. You cling to the negative. The one bad experience you had that day is what you're going to go around and tell all your friends about. That asshole who cut you off. But you're not going to talk about, like, the nice barista and that amazing coworker that cheered you up and that, like, funny guest that you had at the restaurant who made you laugh. Unless you're aware and, like, making an effort or, like, working on it, you're not going to do that. You're going to go tell everybody about how that asshole cut you off.
Yeah. And I think there's, like,
I'm generalizing, guys. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, you mean very specifically, you've tallied it up yourself. But there is that factoid. And they talk about it a lot, like in customer service, kind of like the guest survey thing. But like if you have a good experience, you'll tell 2 people. If you have a bad experience with a thing, you tell 10 people.
Right.
Like that's the norm. And this is also just kind of touching on another episode that we have ready for release that'll hopefully come out in the near future. Of just like how we bond over bad experiences.
Absolutely. Gossiping feels so good sometimes.
Yeah.
It really does. I get it. Complaining feels good. Gossiping feels good. To a certain point. And it depends on like what part of the journey you're on.
Well, right. And I also just want to say that, and we talk about this in the other episode, but like checking your motives, but like the gossiping, the complaining, the whatever, it comes from a very real place of an emotion that has to run its course. So when you say it feels good to a certain point, yeah, of course it does. Mm-hmm. That's normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about balance. It's not like I would ever, like I gossip, I complain, all of it. Yeah, it's just a balance thing of just like it's like we've all kind of become, if you're doing it a lot, you become addicted to it. And that's like where you're getting your dopamine hits.
Right, and if you're using that as a way to mask, avoid, numb, something else that would be beneficial to your own growth and like the objective of spreading love and joy, which I guess is, or the intention I should say, which I think is mine, yours, ours.
100%. And it's also become like annoying and cheesy and woo-woo in the zeitgeist.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love, because it's just the machine working, Like,
oh, yeah.
Let's just think that joy and happiness and love are gross and cheesy and annoying.
Or they're naive or they're irresponsible.
Naive. Ooh, thank you. Those ones I forget, and that's exactly right. Naive, irresponsible, unrealistic.
Right. Mm-hmm. All that old paradigm. Mm-hmm. Those old paradigm ideas and voices and...
Yeah. So outer space, y'all. I would say you should go there, but you're already there. But that's my point.
Mic drop.
That's what I love about that shit. Right. We are in outer space right now. Like,
can you tell them?
I have a tattoo that says gas and stardust are all we are made of. And like, I know that's not true. I know that's not all we're made of. I loved it. Oh my gosh. Recently I saw my cousin that I don't see ever. And I love him to death. He is so funny. Shout out Mike. I love my cousin Mike. And it was so fun because he was the first person thus far, I've had this tattoo for a couple years, to read it. And he goes, well, we're also made of water and like consciousness. And I was like, I love that you are pushing back on this right now so much. This is amazing. Thank you so much for this. Yes, 100%. But it was just something that resonated years ago for me, that I was just like, it was something about outer space and understanding. This came from my space shit. The
no, I know. That's
why, yeah. It literally came from the fact that, okay, here's another nerd fact. The way that everything's created is that stars become supernovas when they explode. After they run out of gas, they're made of gas. They're like fuel tank engines. Mm-hmm. And they will run out of gas after billions of years. And when that happens, they explode, and that becomes a nebula. And some people are listening have heard of nebulas. And it's this like gas cloud. It's like a dust cloud. And there are pictures that the Hubble Space Telescope
I know that
has
I
taken.
asked you very recently.
Yeah.
I've heard of a nebula, but what is it?
Yes. So it's an exploded star.
Yep.
And what it is it's all of the gas explodes, and then all of the dust particles from everything around it, all the planets around it, all of the meteors, all of the rocks, all the mass, the stuff, the like rock stuff, then is just dust, and it's a huge dust cloud. And then something called accretion happens because everything is like pulling itself together by gravity.
Which is something that I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
So everything is like spinning. Like the earth is spinning, the sun is spinning, the galaxy is turning. Everything's turning. And it's, okay, God, this I can't conceptualize. It's not actually spinning. It's like falling. It doesn't matter.
There was a brilliant hand motion that went with that I wish y'all could have seen.
It's true. So all of it pulls itself together by gravity. So all the tiny dust particles pull together into big planets that are crashing together as they become smaller and smaller. So that's how like this solar system came to be, was an old star. Exploded, and then all the gas pulled itself together. So it's all been the gaseous planets on the outside of the solar system. And then all the inner planets are rocks, so they're all dust that pulled together and made rocks. And at some point, the solar system had like hundreds of quote-unquote planets. And then they would just crash into each other and form into balls because the gravity would pull them into a ball. Maria's laughing, and I think she's trying to make all of this dirty in her head. Okay. Is that not what was happening? Or you were just laughing at how much I'm a nerd?
I wasn't. And I was laughing at like how I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like,
this is what happens.
And
yes.
That you're just like so in love with this.
Yes, no, I love it so much.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. No, but this is also.
I am so lost, y'all. Though
that's what happens.
And I can see her. So if you feel like if you're following along, power to you. But if you feel lost, so do I, and we're gonna go with it.
No, I mean that's the thing that happens though. I'm like, I got this. That's just the basics. This is what I'm saying. If I wish I knew a bit more past this, but then I talk to someone and I'm like, oh, no. They don't know anything. Even everything I just said. It's just lost.
At one point, I switched off.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And then I'm like, dang. Like, oh, man. They switched off.
Towards the end, after the accretion.
Accretion, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Accretion?
No, accretion.
Okay, that's why you thought I went dirty.
Yeah. No, I just was saying weird things and your face was getting weirder and weirder. But it makes sense. You were just like, I don't get it.
Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what's so crazy about it. It's all like this. The concepts feel difficult for some reason, right? They feel too big. They feel like, what are you talking about? Gas and dust, gravity, pulling back on itself to create, like something exploding to create something new. But that's when I started to then Earth. Some people are really into biology, right? Or something on Earth. And so they're like, whoa, biology, it's so cool how like something dies and like a plant dies and then it becomes like mulch for the next plant, right? That was where I did it from the outside in.
Sure. Which.
Yeah.
Yeah. That comparison is really helpful.
Yes. Because then I was suddenly like, oh, these concepts feel big because we don't talk about them. So you don't understand the words. You're like nebula, planet, solar system, accretion. And it's like, oh gosh, I'll never understand it. But it's like, no. It's just shit recycling. There's the purpose for everything. The universe is just recycling shit, recreating from old stuff. Reusing, like a star explodes so that new planets can be born.
That's actually so helpful for me too. Because right now when you said like from the outside in and compared it to biology.
Yes.
I think of how long I spend talking to a flower.
Yes.
And just being amazed at the point where one color becomes another color. And I'm like, how did you know how to do that?
Correct.
Where did you get that information?
Divine
was
intelligence.
Was it from your seed?
Ooh,
was
yeah.
it from the sun? Was it because of the raindrop that ended up inside of you? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know.
So it's micro and macro.
Yeah, or just inverse, yes.
Right. I just meant like microbiology, like micro little things, the flower, the little drop, the thing inside of it, versus this like, we think of it as like, it's so big I can't conceptualize, but it's like, they're the same.
Totally.
It's just new words and concepts. And it's really hard to conceptualize when you talk about outer space because we're not out there looking at it. Except for if you're me, when I'm like nerding out on like the books. Or, I mean, like, sorry, there's a cameo from my cat. But, like, the picture books. That was why Hubble was, like, so revolutionary for me. I could get a visual on it. And those shows back then, now when I watch them, the graphics are, like, trash, as usual. Even those graphics don't need to be so much prettier. It's just fun when the graphics get better for this topic. But even those old graphics, it's so you can visualize and conceptualize it. It's so hard to talk about it if you can't, like, see it. You can happen to go out and look at a flower. So if I talk to you about a flower, you're like, I've seen a flower. But if you're not a nerd, like a space nut like me, and you're not, like, watching a show where it's showing you the visualization of accretion, where it's like little rocks spinning around each other and coalescing, I'm, like, telling you, and it's like, but, like, if you see it, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, that, like, makes sense. But it's still really hard to grasp.
Yeah.
Because we're not, like, up and out there. But that's why I'm always like, but we are.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's why pictures are so cool with that stuff. I mean, I cannot believe we've gotten pictures of other planets in our solar system. Like, it is amazing the stuff we have done. And only in the last 100 years.
Dude, in the last fucking 20 years.
Totally. But I mean literally of all of it, space.
Right.
Like, traveling. So, like, we did not exit the planet till, like, the 60s. Or the maybe 50s with, like, Sputnik or whatever. So, it's like the 50s.
Well, we didn't even leave the ground until...
Correct! We didn't even fly till the 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, in the literal last 100 years...
No, it's been exponential.
So exponential. But that's why it's also just like, of course it's really hard to conceptualize because it's new to humanity to, like, see the pictures that help you internalize it.
Sure. Which kind of goes back to, like, your mom being, and I'm just using this word, but, like, the intimidation of it. I don't know if that's her experience specifically, but because this shit is overwhelming.
It's super overwhelming.
To try to understand it. And I also just want to say that, like, I don't even know if it's important that all of us understand.
No. You don't really have to, like, understand. It's just that also another thing that I have grappled with a lot with the science versus spirituality thing was also the science field in general. Because we took the two away from each other, as you and I know, both of us feel passionate about science and spirituality being the same thing and intrinsically intertwined, and you cannot.
And the sweet spot is where they are equal parts of the conversation.
Correct.
For me.
Which we're coming back to now, right. I think, as a society, which is going to take the next another 100 years or whatever we're doing.
So that's what we'll be doing with our podcast time till we die.
True. But, like, right, it's going to be that. It's like, so for science, you were never allowed to bring in that spirituality part of, like, that was what was so funny to me when I was, like, studying it, and I was like, how can you not be questioning your entire fucking existence right now learning about this? But then you're supposed to cut it all off and be like, I don't believe in God, and we're dead, we're gone, and I don't even know. And I'm like, oh boy, that must be really internally confusing. And, like, very, like, super subconsciously, like, fucking you up. Because
which brings me...
how could you not be like, what the fuck is all of this? Wow, existential crisis in a good way.
Right, which, like, little nugget, again, brings me back to what you said about biology. I cannot tell you how often I take a picture of a flower or I'm stopped in my tracks by something, and the first thought in my mind is like, you can't tell me there's no God.
Right.
Like, look at that.
Right. And just to be clear,
and
like...
botany, biology, science. And
right.
Then, what the fuck made that?
And just to be clear with Maria and I, not to get into, like, what we think of God and all of that, like, it's all personal. We'll get there. But just so you know, if we use the word... like, I know you use it a lot more than I do, but, like, we're very much, like, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. Some spirit, like, whatever. Yeah. That's what we mean when we say God, just so you know. And it could be somebody who's in a organized religion using it. That's fine, too, like, whatever. But that's how Maria and I are using it. It's just this.
It's very fluid.
It's very fluid. It's not, like, a one thing at all. But, yeah, so it's just, like, that is... me and space in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I'm sure this episode has gotten long enough.
Yeah, man.
Loves it so much. And
come back for more.
Yeah, please come back for more. We'll keep going.
We don't know where we're going.
Oh, you know what?
Exciting.
This is what I want to close with. Maria has now mentioned more than once that she takes pictures of flowers. And her flower pictures are amazing.
Thank you.
And now she has an Etsy shop.
I sure
And
do.
I think that you should do a plug for your Etsy shop.
All right, plug for my Etsy shop. It's called Courageous Design. I do prints of my flower photos, which are stunning and unusual. And I'm having so much fun. So buy them or don't, but I don't care because it's so much fun for me.
Yes.
It's unavoidable.
Courageous Design on Etsy. It's really, her pictures are so beautiful. She's
Thanks,
literally
girl.
thousands of pictures of flowers, and they're really, really gorgeous.
Thanks, girl.
Yeah, they're so good.
I would say that makes me so uncomfortable, but it doesn't because I agree. I think they're great.
Good.
They're great.
Good. Yes. All right, well, that.
Sweet. All right.
I think we're outie.
Like a belly button.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and most importantly, share. This episode was hosted by Maria and Maria. Theme music composed and performed by Maria. Logo design by Maria. Recorded and produced by Maria. Snacks provided by Maria. Moral support provided to Maria by Maria.